Hey, it's Jordan with the Young Turks, TYT Politics, closing out a very, very active and productive day here at Netroots Nation. If you want all the content that I've done from here, a lot of the videos are on youtube.com/TYT Politics. As I've told you a few times, I have to keep it real. This is not a capital P progressive conference. Doesn't mean it's all bad, but little establishment for my taste. However, there are some progressive candidates here, so I'm trying to talk to as many as I can. With me right now is Robb Ryerse. You are a self-described Eisenhower Republican. I don't even know if that exists anymore. And for those who don't even know what that means, Eisenhower was probably the last non-social Darwinist Republican that I know of. Most of the Republicans after the Barry Goldwater, Ronald Reagan age have all been, they come from the Ayn Rand school of thought, like greed is good and, figure it out for yourself. Anyway, that's my opinion. Mm-hmm. So you're running in Arkansas's 3rd District, and you have an interesting story. You've been a minister for over 20 years, and you're with your wife. You're, I believe, the Vintage Fellowship. Is a kind of church, and you welcome all people, and it's kind of a network of progressive-leaning churches. Talk to me about why you wanted to run in Arkansas. You are Republican, mm-hmm. but you consider yourself a progressive Republican.
Yeah. So thank you, Jordan, for having me on the show today. Appreciate that. I'm a lifelong Republican, and I, frankly, in the last 20 years. And really the last 18 months in particular, have really been disheartened by the direction that the Republican Party has gone. And so rather than kind of walking away and abandoning the party, I decided that my best energies could be spent staying in and trying to make a difference from the inside. Mm-hmm. And so my campaign is about putting people ahead of the party establishment, putting the needs of people ahead of corporate donors and special interest groups, and helping to get the Republican Party back to its historic values, the types of things that you mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm. Talk to, a lot of the audience wouldn't know, and frankly, I wasn't around.
Yeah.
Talk, why do you say Eisenhower Republican? What about Eisenhower do you like to model yourself after?
Yeah, so Eisenhower was someone who was willing to question the establishment. He's the one who coined the phrase the military-industrial complex. The Republican Party platform in 1956 was a really progressive platform, included increasing the minimum wage, included equal pay for women. There's values that the Republican Party has had historically that frankly we need to get back to.
And obviously Arkansas, so conservative state. That's where Bill Clinton got his start as governor. Yeah. In the Deep South, most of these states where you see the worst healthcare systems, the worst education systems, just the worst of the worst, are in the South.
Yeah.
Yet they tend to vote for Republicans, and these Republican politicians haven't exactly been executing progressive policies. Right. Even if you're running as a Republican, how do you win running with a progressive message? Because it seems like you want to raise the minimum wage. You'll have to tell me the rest of your policy planks. How do you connect with people that seem to vote Republican but don't gravitate to a progressive message?
Yeah, so I'm running as a candidate with Brand New Congress, mm-hmm. and one of the things that really drew me to Brand New Congress is their desire to have kind of non-politicians run. There was a day in January that I woke up and had no plans to run for Congress and went to bed that night thinking, maybe I'll run for Congress, because I had learned about Brand New Congress that day. And so I'm not a career politician with any kind of long-term political desires. But the other thing that really drew me to Brand New Congress is this post-partisan strategy that says we recognize that there are some districts that are just bright red, and some that are bright blue. And in those districts, the thing that makes the most sense is to find progressives who can run within their parties. And so, there's some districts like Montana that Republican can body slam a reporter and still get elected. Or here in Georgia.
Well, in fairness, when that happened, that was a heavily early vote state.
That's right. Yeah,
so
you're right about
most
that.
of the votes were already in for that body slamming.
Yeah. And here in Georgia, Democrats can spend a record amount of money on a candidate and still lose. Mm-hmm. And so, there's just that recognition that if progressives are just going to stay within one party, there's large parts of the country that they're just not going to compete in. Mm-hmm. And so the strategy is to run. I'm a lifelong Republican who is a progressive and want to move the party more in that direction. And so I'm running this race. Now, can we win? We're going to find out. The strategy is to run and to attract voters who are anti-establishment. And we see that wave of anti-establishment kind of cresting across the country, whether with Bernie Sanders or with Trump. My district includes a lot of anti-establishment voters. There's also young social justice evangelicals, young evangelicals who care about the environment and care about poverty and care about health care and don't feel very represented by the corporate Republicans that represent them, that are their congresspeople. And so tapping into that demographic. And then essentially there's pragmatic Democrats and independents who kind of realize that the real race in Arkansas's 3rd congressional district is in May in the primary, not in November.
The Republican primary.
The Republican primary. My district is going to elect a Republican come November of 2018. The question is, do you want it to be a corporate establishment Republican like Steve Womack, or do you want it to be a progressive independent Republican like me?
So you know the Young Turks. So obviously our number one issue is getting money out of politics. Frankly, I'm not exceptions to every rule, but most Republicans are for more money in politics. You know, corporations are people and la la la. And they love Citizens United, and they love all these globalized trade deals that sold all the jobs offshore. So what is your stance on corporate money in politics?
Corporate money is the biggest problem in our political system today. What we have is politicians who are bought and paid for. And so you look at someone like Congressman Womack, who my opponent. There's really only 4 things that he's known for. When he first went to Congress, he proposed a bill to defund President Obama's teleprompter, you know, because that's one of those important things that
Damn
needs.
I've been lobbying for that forever.
Yeah, that's right, because that helps the people of Arkansas. The only bill he's ever gotten passed is a commemorative coin, which again, you know, really important for the people of Arkansas. The other 2 things that he's known for is his support of the poultry industry. John Oliver actually did a segment on him a while back. His support of the poultry industry because his number one donor is Tyson Foods, which is in our district. And then the other thing that he's known for is his support of an internet sales tax. And why is he pushing for an internet sales tax? Because Walmart is in our district, and Walmart's in a big fight with Amazon, and a internet sales tax helps them. And so you look at the issues that he advocates for are the issues that his corporate donors care about, and the people of our district are left behind. And you can see across the board, our elected officials, they go to Washington and they advocate for and they fight for the things that their donors have paid for, not for the needs of people.
So why I think that's important that you're saying that is it seems to me why Trump was so successful.
Yeah.
Yes, there was a racial element, but that wasn't the whole thing.
Yep.
That message, he's a con man. I mean, I told my audience during the campaign, he doesn't mean a word he says. Right. But he was saying, you know, they're all puppets for the corporate donors, and they're just selling your jobs to Mexico and China, and I'm going to, you know, focus on you and the actual people. Yeah. And that message resonated with a lot of Republicans because there is that anti-establishment fervor, and a lot of people, I think, are waking up since the financial crash in particular, to the fact that these people don't represent me. They, you know, they look at the polls, look at policy positions, and certain things poll very high, yet legislation doesn't pass for that.
And it all goes back to the money. It all goes back to the donors. Healthcare, you know, we can't solve the healthcare crisis because our politicians are bought and paid for by the insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies. We can't solve just so many of issues that we face as a country because it all goes back to, you know, the people that have donated to our elected officials.
And in the 3rd district in particular, I know Arkansas and a lot of these southern states, you have a lot of joblessness, a lot of poverty, education is not great. So let's say you get in. With this message, how do you even begin to break it, put a dent in that?
Yeah, so a number of issues that are really important to me. One is healthcare. I support Medicare for all. I think there's good moral and economic reasons why we need to make sure that every American has the health coverage that they need. I think it's good for small businesses, and I think it's good for job growth. I think we need to make sure that we have wise and competent government spending and investment. We need to invest in things that benefit the most Americans possible, rather than investing in things that are just a benefit to small groups of Americans, particularly those on Wall Street and corporate donors. And so that means investing in infrastructure, which will create jobs, investing in a green energy economy, which will create jobs. And then as we...
Are you sure you're a Republican?
Yeah, I'm a
Okay.
Republican.
Go ahead.
Well, I care more about people than the party.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah. I told the panel earlier today, I want to be your favorite Republican. That's what I'm here to be.
Well, I think what's interesting what you're saying also, because if you're talking Eisenhower, this is like the corporate media, they will not utter this phrase, but how about the wars? How about the military-industrial complex?
Yeah.
Why is it that free public college tuition, which
Yep.
$70 billion a year, we spent $6 trillion
Yeah.
in pointless wars?
Yeah.
I think we should have went to Afghanistan for a year and a half,
Yeah.
and I think we should have left. We're still there.
Yeah.
I don't think we should have went to Iraq. Now we might go to North Korea. We got more bases than we know what to do with around the world.
Yeah.
This is all why we don't have Medicare for all. This is why we don't have free college.
Yep.
This is why we don't. Now they're pushing private prisons. I mean, it could go on and on.
Yeah, and we spend on defense more than, is it the next 7 countries? 10 countries in the world combined. We could reduce that a bit and reduce essentially just the waste that's involved there, and not impact our standing and our national security at all. But again, that's never going to happen because of the Halliburtons and the Lockheed Martins of the world that are buying and paying for our politicians. What we need is people who will be elected who are not supported by corporate donors, but are supported by average everyday Americans, who people-powered campaigns, so that when we go to Washington, our loyalty is with the people and not with the corporations that buy and pay for us.
And talk to me about so far while you've been campaigning. Has your message, this anti-corporate message, which is kind of like what Trump was doing without the racism, has this been resonating?
Absolutely, it's been really exciting. It's been a lot of fun. People are fed up. I mean, there's a level of frustration and apprehension that exists in the country, but people are really fed up. In the days after the presidential election, I kept having the same conversation with friends over and over again. People kept saying, "I've got to do something. Got to do something." And so they've joined indivisible groups. They've gone to events. They've written and called their congresspeople and in ways that they never have before. And what we're trying to do is tap into that kind of energy, that sense of we've got to do something to change what's going on. And my campaign is an opportunity for people to get involved and to actually do something that's going to make a difference for the people in Arkansas's 3rd District.
And lastly, I really you're one of the few sane Republicans I've spoken to in the last year and a half, and just smart person. I don't understand how many more examples do we need to see that trickle-down economics does not work. Would you like to? Let's all take a bus ride to Kansas right now. Sorry for my friends in Kansas watching, but Sam Brownback, trickle-down economics on steroids. This Kansas is now a shithole. Not like literally, but they cut education, firefighters, cops, infrastructure. I mean, you name it, he cut it so he could give his donors and corporations tax cuts. And now the Republican legislature had to veto him to stop the bleeding because he wants to do more. He wanted to do more of it. And by the way, Democrats, a lot of Democrat politicians push this narrative of tax cuts, stimulate the economy. No, more customers stimulate the economy. Your thoughts as an Eisenhower Republican?
Yeah. So.
You don't have to agree.
I might blow your mind a little bit, but I'm gonna reference Ronald Reagan here. Yeah. So President Reagan used to talk about the importance of having more jobs. One of the reasons why he supported amnesty and immigration reform was to bring more taxpayers into the system. There's a recognition that our system requires people paying their fair share, people paying taxes. And so when I look at our tax code, the thing that we need to address in our tax code is that we have a huge group of corporations that aren't paying taxes. And we need them to pay their fair share. We need them to be taxpayers in the system for the system to work correctly. We've got to close those loopholes that cause our corporate tax structure to be shouldered by small businesses, and we've got to close those loopholes so that big corporations pay their fair share, and that's going to benefit real everyday Americans. That's going to benefit all of us.
Well, I think there's a few things to that. Number one, I got to disagree on Reagan. I don't think
Sure.
he was about the fair share. I mean, Reagan started the let me give gigantic tax breaks to the wealthy and we'll give crumbs to the rest. So that's not exactly fair share.
Yeah,
but
Reagan did raise taxes a couple of times.
yes,
too.
he did.
Yeah.
But after he screwed it up so bad. But I will say also, part of the reason you don't have enough taxes coming in is because there's a lack of jobs.
Sure.
Part of why we have such a lack of jobs
Yep.
is these trade deals
Yep.
have sent millions of jobs offshore.
Yep.
Another reason is since the economic crash, you have a lot of businesses now getting away with, oh, well, I don't, freelance
Yep.
or
Yep.
I'll just hire one person to do the job of four. There's been this kind of, and now we are replacing humans with machines.
Yep.
I see it. You just walk into CVS. They don't even have workers anymore. It's just self-checkout.
Yeah.
So not just taxes, but like what's your thoughts on? We are slowly moving into more of a jobless system.
Yeah. So there's so many different angles to come at this. There's so many different things that we can do to improve the job market. Medicare for all is one of them. I have a friend who owns a small business, and he keeps track of how many employees he has. He always stays right at like 48, 49, because as soon as he hits 50 employees, he is required to provide health insurance for them, and it's gonna be a big hit on his bottom line. And so if we had Medicare for all, he could grow his business without that concern at all. And the current system actually keeps small businesses from growing, keeps jobs from being created. We've got this when I say we've got to invest in ways that are wise and competent that benefit the most Americans possible. It's infrastructure, it's green energy, because that's going to create jobs. Mm-hmm. And those are the things that we've really got to put a focus on. That's going to make such a difference in people's lives. It's not only good for the economy, but it helps to end generational poverty. I mean, just all of our focus needs to be on creating good, high-wage jobs in our country, and then make sure people are educated and have the technical skills to be able to take those jobs.
And where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, they can check me out at robb2018.com. It's Robb, it's ROBB 2018.com. I'm on Twitter at Robb2018, Facebook at Robb2018. It's ROBB 2018.
And I assume since we've been shitting on corporate donors for the last 20 minutes, you're going small dollar donations?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's on my website, there's a little button that says donate. You can go to our CrowdPack page and donate. I think our average donation is like $29 right now. And every bit helps, makes a huge difference.
And are pale white Jews from Long Island allowed in your church if I came down to Arkansas?
Absolutely, everybody's allowed in our church.
Last time I went to church, I actually ran out crying. It's a whole story. I'll tell you about it sometime. Jesus and we didn't have a first good meeting, but I'm willing to give it another chance. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, George.
I appreciate it.